Olha o contra-ataque aí. Vem que vem o time avançando rápido pela meio de campo. Bola dominada no pé do camisa 10. Ele vai pra cima, passou pelo primeiro, passou pelo segundo. Invadiu a grande área, vai chutar. Bateu, é gol! Que golaço, minha gente!
A experiência de futebol mais autêntica já criada para os games. Junte-se no 5v5 Rush, a nova maneira de jogar com os amigos e leve seu clube para a vitória. EA Sports FC 25. Dê tudo pelo clube. Já disponível.
RH, quer saber como voar no trabalho? É só usar a Flash. Com a Flash, você concentra toda a gestão de pessoas em um único lugar. Faça a admissão dos colaboradores e solicite mais de 8 categorias de benefícios. Ah, e você ainda pode fazer todo o controle de ponto. Conheça o novo onboarding integrado da Flash em flashapp.com.br.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Don't Blame Me. We're in the quarantine, and Melissa and I we're not fighting. Melissa's mad at me today, guys.
We're beefing hard.
No, but I'm not beefing with you.
I'm beefing with you. It's a one-sided fight.
Yeah.
I'm mad. Okay.
Yeah. Would you like to tell people why you're upset?
I mean, if you're watching this, you can clearly see why. Because Megan usually comes to these things. See, when we first started, I was coming all glammed up, and then Megan wasn't. So I stopped because I was like, why? And now today, Megan is radiating.
You're frozen.
Looks beautiful. You're frozen too.
Damn it!
She's looking radiant and beautiful, and I look like a bum.
No, you do not look like a bum. You look fantastic. And I think it's like an optical illusion that I've created because like my hair hasn't been like straight or straight in so long, and I just got my color touched up.
You've
which is not my
definitely
choice.
have stuff on your cheeks.
No, I have makeup on too, but I'm saying like it's not more makeup than I normally would. It's just the combo of everything.
You didn't even have on makeup the last time we recorded, period.
No, I know.
So you do have on more.
No, I do.
For the recordings, you have
saying...
on significantly more makeup than what you've been wearing while we've been recording.
Yes, but remember the day that I wore the romper? Like the white striped, like tank toppy one, and I had all the necklaces and my hair was in a low bun. I was wearing makeup that day, but I made up for it
too.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, my hair was like in a bun.
The difference is
you.
I had on makeup as well.
And I didn't alert her. And yeah, I apologize.
No, you're not sorry.
I truly am. But you look so cute and your hair looks great and I love your shirt.
Thanks. And
you without makeup is like you're still like you look so good all the time. You truly do. I'm not even fucking with you. No, shut the fuck up. Fine. I'm going to get into the rest of the show. Everybody, this is Don't Blame Me, an advice podcast. And if you want to call in for an upcoming episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. Any housekeeping stuff that we have going on?
I don't believe so.
Am I 27 by the time this episode is out?
Yes, you are. You are 27.
I'm not looking forward to it.
It's just an age. From 27 to 29, nothing happens. Like, even 26 to 29, it's like, it's just an age. And then you get to be
7.
my age, and you genuinely forget how old you are, and someone asks you, and you say that you're 2 years younger than you are, and don't realize that you're wrong until, like, a week later when you're replaying the conversation in your head.
That's funny. I just I don't know, for some reason, like as a kid, did you ever have any like specific ages that like would stick out? I mean, obviously like, oh, when I'm 18, oh, when I'm 21. But I, for some reason, like I think 23 was one and 27 was one and 29, like ages that for some reason as like a kid, I thought I also like odd numbers. That was like going to be something. And now I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Hi, Megan. So I'm 22 years old. I've been in the dating scene probably since I was about 19. And I just recently came out as lesbian. Yay. But I have this problem where I seem to keep getting ghosted, and it's like a routine now. Basically, what seems to happen is I'm talking to someone for about a month. We get, pretty good with each other. We go out on a first date. It goes really well. But then when the second date is being planned, they seem to start ghosting me. And I don't know. I was thinking maybe if I call in, maybe ask for some advice, see if there's other people who have been in similar situations, because I know it sounds weird, but I don't think it's me. Maybe it's the people that I am, choosing to go on a date with. I am in the Midwest, so I don't know, maybe it's the women around here. I have no idea, but I just wanted to call in, maybe see if there's other people that have a similar situation, or if you have any advice. Thank you so much. Love the podcast. Love you.
I mean, you called into two ghosters.
Yeah.
And I also, to be honest, I mean, I'm trying to think about, like, I wouldn't even say every time I ghost, it's like me, and it's also the person. It's just that, like, we're not a good match. And I think that ghosting happens, like, I'm pro ghosting, but my friends who aren't super pro ghosting, the one date, like, that's kind of like the threshold where it's like so socially acceptable to kind of just ghost and like not respond, or just like kind of like disappear. And I wonder if you're just like going on dates with people who are just like really nice and like aren't confrontational and don't feel comfortable saying like, oh, I had a great, like, I didn't actually enjoy the date as much as I let on. Like, maybe they're doing that aspect of it. And so it's getting your hopes up that they're just as into you. And it might just be like over politeness, which I'm not a fan of.
And maybe it's like your vetting process as far as when you're setting up the date. Are you making sure that these are people that actually, like, what do you want? Do you want a relationship, or are you out here just trying to like casually date and making sure that you're on the same page with that person? So, making sure that, like, if you want a long-term relationship, you're being upfront that say that you're not just dating to date, you want a relationship. Or if you just want to go on a whole bunch of dates saying, hey, I'm just dating around right now. And so it just might be that you guys are on two different pages.
And I also think it depends on how long you're talking before you go on a date. Because I think there are some people who like don't want to text and don't want to talk from like dating apps and stuff before they go out, because they're like, oh, what are we going to have to talk about? Whereas like for me, I would rather talk like enough that I know that I'm still into you. So then by the time that we meet up, I mean, not that it's like less likely that it's just, we've already kind of done more of that, like, oh, we already get to know each other sort of thing. So like, as opposed to like the ghosting can happen like over text versus in person, because it's hard. Like if you're just meeting someone on a dating app, talking really quickly and then being like, oh, let's go on a date. And it's so fast. Then by the time that you go on the date, there's like a huge chance you guys really like you don't have that much in common. You're not super into each other, and that the ghosting is going to happen. That's just going to be much more likely, because I think that all of that doesn't point to you. But I would also say, in terms of ghosting, it's because like they're not that they're not interested in it. It's how they feel, not how they feel about you specifically. That's like true. It doesn't have to be like a you problem at all. But like when I've ghosted people, it's because like, oh, I don't want to be friends with this person anymore. Oh, I don't want to do this. It's not like, oh, they fucking suck, so this is all about them. Like they did this to me. They forced me to ghost them. I'm like, no, it's my own decision. Like it's your own choice to ghost. It's the ghoster's like that's the person who's actively doing something. So I think it's good that you're not thinking that it's about you, because it's really not. And I don't think it ever really is. It's just a matter of like two people who just like don't mesh or don't get along or just like aren't following through. Yeah. But I mean, you can also like, if you really want to know, and if you like do ever start to worry that you're like, oh, was it something that I said or did, you can always ask someone, be like, hey, I know like haven't heard from you in like a really long time, like a couple months later, and I definitely had a great time like going out with you, and like honestly no hard feelings that you ghosted, but like I'm trying to like figure out like where my dating life is going, and like I'd love to know like was it something I did? Like, and I'm sure you could ask. I don't know if people would respond, and I don't know if I would walk into that like potential situation, but I think it also just takes a good amount of time. And like people that you date, it's like practice. 10,000 hours. That's a lot of dating though. Well, best of luck, and I hope that the dates that you've been going on are virtual Zoom dates.
Agree.
Hi, Megan, Melissa, and Jess. I am in my late 20s, and my boyfriend is in his mid-30s. And we have been together in quarantine since the start of the whole thing, mainly because, neither of us wanted to be alone, and both of us were able to work from home. We have not been dating for even a year yet. So that was, definitely worrisome to think that we were going to be spending a lot of time together, even though we hadn't been together for that long. But everything has been going really well, actually. However, he has been starting to talk about us moving in together, and I definitely didn't want to hurt his feelings or anything, which I know probably sounds silly, but I kind of went along with it. The more he brings it up and the more people he tells about it, the more uncomfortable I feel, because I realize I'm just not ready for it yet. And even though we have basically been living together this whole time, I would really just enjoy my space back soon. And he is renting out a new place, which is not too far away, and he gets his keys in about a week, and all he's been talking about is me moving in with him. And every time it comes up, I'm just oh, I don't want to do that. But it's not like I don't want to be with him or continue to see him. So I guess I'm just looking for advice. Should I be concerned that I'm not ready to move in yet? I get that he's a little bit older and probably wanting to settle down. And I definitely do too in the future, but I would also very much enjoy being able to go in my room by myself, in my home by myself, watching shitty reality TV by myself, and going to bed by myself again. Yeah, hopefully I don't sound like a total jerk. Thanks. Bye.
First of all, we have to address, was that a fucking cow in the background?
It has to be, right? I feel like I heard some distinct moos. I heard mooing. I hope it was a cow, not just some random person in the back going, meow. Wow. This sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, he's in his 30s. You're in your 20s. Haven't even been dating a year. I mean, okay, I will say, as somebody who lives with her boyfriend, I've had other boyfriends where we're oh, we practically live together because we spend so much time together. Even Monts and I, before he officially moved in, he practically lived here. Practically living with someone and living with someone is so fucking different. It's just so different. Because when someone is staying with you, if they're not, paying the rent or any of that stuff, they're no matter what, no matter how comfortable they are, you're still a guest. And they still, there is that little bit left. And you're also going to be kind of more, you're not sharing your space. You're kind of you're still kind of hosting in a weird way. You don't feel like you can do, like you said, the reality TV thing, doing all the things that you want to do just solo. You have to tell him now,
you have to stop stalling or just going along with what he's saying, because he's making plans for this future with the two of you living in this place, and that's not what you want at all. So you just have to be hey, I've really enjoyed having you around, but I'm not ready for us to move in together. So I'm gonna keep my place, and you have your place, and then we can still spend time together. But at the end of the day, at this time, I want to be in separate dwelling places.
Yeah, and his feelings are probably going to be hurt, and that's okay. But because I'm curious, did you go with him to look at this apartment?
They probably did it virtually.
Or like, did you help pick? Like, is
Yeah.
this like, would he have picked this apartment and is he counting on you for like covering part of the rent? Like, when is your lease up? Like, when is all of this? There's all of these like logistics that come into play too. And I think that the most straightforward that you can be with him, and just make sure, I would lead the conversation with, I don't want, the only thing about our relationship that I want to change is that like, I want us to like not live together, but like, I still want to date you. Like, I still want this. And like, it's not that I
be with you.
And it's not like I don't ever want to live with you. It's just like, I think that like we did this like relatively soon because of the quarantine. And as much as like it's been great and like it makes me like look forward to eventually living with you again, like I'm also kind of like looking forward to like having like my own space and like my own time, and then like going back to like dating you and like having that like fun, exciting part of it too, and like sleeping over at each other's places and all of that. And I think he'll be butthurt. And I think you can like obviously apologize for not being confrontational, like not saying it right away, but also just like express the fact that you're like, I thought that's what I wanted, and the more that I sat on it. And then yeah, he can be upset, but he can't be, I wouldn't allow it to be like let him be upset for a couple days and then like, okay, if he is like, no, we have to move in together, or like he's like so upset and like that's the only solution, then like that's
he's
too
not
much.
the guy for you.
Not the guy. Mm-mm. Also, maybe deep down, he's also feeling the same way. And he's just like being overexcited. He's like, yay!
Can't wait.
I'm so excited for us to live together. And you're like, me too. And both of you are like, I hope for your sake that, and it'll be less awkward if that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck. I feel like this is going to happen to so many couples who have just like lived together through quarantine and then are like, oh, we'll just keep doing it.
Yeah, I feel like for her though, at least she recognizes it and like she still wants to be with him. A lot of people are like in quarantine and then break up and then they're stuck together.
Okay, well, should we go on to the next?
Hi, I don't know if either of you guys will be able to relate to this, but there's a lot going on in my life right now and some guidance would be great. So to put it in context, I have severe anxiety and there's a lot going on in my life. Like I just broke my foot. I just got a promotion at work. I'm studying a full-time degree at university. And then my boyfriend's mum just decided to get a divorce with her very toxic husband, which is my boyfriend's dad. So she's currently living with my boyfriend and I. And I feel like I'm living with my mom again, but she's really sweet, she's really nice, and I'm like trying my best to like help her. But my boyfriend's family is like very messy. I've been trying to like support her and like convince her that she should go to therapy and that like that would be really beneficial to her. But my boyfriend's sister is like yelling at her and like telling her that therapy's not a good idea and that that's just like stringing their father along, and like giving him a false hope. And I just don't really know what to do. I've like come in between in this family. His sister's like being really hostile to me just because I tried to say that his mom should like go get therapy. I'm a firm believer that like everyone should get therapy, even if you haven't had like a trauma. Therapy is really helpful. And yeah, I just don't really know what to do. I feel, because I have a lot of anxiety, I feel really nervous to interact with her. I've only met her like 5 times before this, and now she's living with us. And yeah, I don't know how to like navigate being safe in my own home. And like, I know that I'm safe, but I don't know how to navigate being in my home. It's such a big life difference. And my boyfriend's like, well, she knows we're both adults, like it's fine. And I'm like, bit different, you know? So if you have any advice on how to not break this family and how to stop being so anxious in my own home, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Congratulations on your job.
Yeah.
Sorry about your foot.
Oof.
Now back into the other stuff.
I think like, maybe this is just me completely misreading the situation. I think that the sister thinks that you meant that they should go to couples therapy. Like, from the way that you're describing it and saying, like, oh, she, like, thinks that it's, like, giving her, like, the husband false hope and all of that. And maybe you said, like, therapy, she just took it to couples therapy, or you said couples therapy, but that's more along the lines of, like, how can they, like, what is Gwyneth Paltrow? What was there? No. A conscious uncoupling.
Oh.
So if it's something like that, if that's what you kind of meant, but I think that that's how they kind of read it, or how she kind of read it was that it was about, like, fixing the relationship between them, as opposed to, like,
making herself better, whole, and
yeah.
And I mean, she was in a toxic relationship. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff that she needs therapizing over.
Yeah. And I would just bring that up again in, like, a helpful way. And I would bring it up with your boyfriend and be like, okay, because this is the thing. It's not your family. They're living there. And, like, you sound like a fixer. And also because, like, your anxiety, like, they're there. Like, she's there. She's living with you. And, like, it's contributing to your anxiety. So then to, like, help her feel better will then in turn help you feel better. And so that's, like, you know, what we do when we have anxiety, like, action items, like things that we can do that can actively help us. And the issue with this is that it's somebody else who's also involved, and it's not your parent. So I would really talk to your boyfriend about this and be like, I'm experiencing a fuck ton of anxiety from all of this. And I really think, like, therapy would help your mom. And I think that your sister misunderstood when she thought it was couples therapy. I mean, individual solo therapy. And I think that, like, it'd be great if you could broach the subject with your mom and your sister and talk about it in that way. Because I think you're physically in the middle of this family, and I think you need to, like, do as much as you can to, like, remove yourself emotionally from the middle of the family.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's on your boyfriend to really step in, but I also do know the whole thing of being like, oh, we're adults, like, my mom knows it's fine. You're like, okay, yeah, but it's your mom. It's not my mom. Like, it's like,
also,
it's weird.
Is she living with you guys, like, permanently, or is it a temporary thing?
I think that there needs to be boundaries. Like, you need to create these boundaries, and your boyfriend needs to be on the team with you to create the boundaries. And I don't know if you guys have ever, like, done, like, couples therapy together, or if you have really ever explained your anxiety to him. But I find it really helpful to kind of, like, break it down. Like, when he says something like, oh, well, it's like, she knows we're adults, we're fine. And you're like, I totally understand that. Like, the logical side of my brain totally feels that. But, like, we need to address the anxiety side of my brain. So I kind of need you to entertain these thoughts or these feelings that might seem, like, nonsensical to you. They're super fucking real to me. And I can't just, like, logic my anxiety away. Like, whatever it's you need, like, whether you need, like, a conversation with him, whether it's like, okay, let's create these boundaries, or these, like, this protocol that might seem, like, ridiculous for him. Like, I have, like, you know, my social anxiety one where it comes to, like, going out to, like, parties and stuff. Like, I'm not spontaneous. Like, Monts knows. He has to, like, tell me, like, a couple days before, and then, like, I have ample time to get ready, and I do all of this stuff, which is, in his mind, like, love him, but he's just like, fucking stupid. But, like, he does it and, like, goes along with it because he knows that, like, I respond to it as if it is, like, fact, and if it is, like, a total reality thing versus, like, my own, like, perceived reality and anxieties. So I think you just really, like, I think the solution, or not the solution, I think, like, what's going to make this better is your boyfriend. I think, like, this is a lot of this is on him, and on you guys creating boundaries, and you upholding your own boundaries, and him enforcing those boundaries, and making sure that you also uphold them, and making sure that other people are also upholding them, considering it is his family. And yeah, and also maybe just, like, maybe if there's a way for you to kind of just, like, detach from helping, and, like, just kind of, like, let it be what it is. And, like, I'm very much, like, a helper, and I get that. But if she doesn't want to go to therapy, and, like, they don't really want to do anything, and, like, because I don't know what the sisters want. Like, what does the sister want? Like, what is all of this? Sometimes it can kind of just be better to be like, okay, well, what do you want? Like, what can I do for you? What do you need in this moment? And then just kind of let it be, as opposed to, like, trying to fix it or solve it. Because there's also not necessarily anything to fix or solve. It could just be, like, riding the time out, and just, like, letting her be sad, letting her go through that mourning phase, and, like, letting her be angry. And if you're like an empath or you are just like, a highly sensitive person or an anxious person, like you can really absorb those feelings and it can make you want to like fix things. But then from there is just hang out in your room more, like just like doing like self-care things to like let her do her own stuff. But I do not envy this situation.
Me either.
Best of luck.
You need all of it.
Yeah. But congrats on the promotion. Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, guys, we are back from our break. We're getting to the rest of the calls.
To start off, I'm 22. I just graduated college, and I've been single my entire life, like to the point where I haven't had a first kiss. I'm a virgin, all that good stuff. And there's some past trauma there that makes my brain say that I'm incapable of receiving love, which I'm working on with the therapist. That's not why I'm calling. I guess why I'm calling is like I have had all of these thoughts and like these thoughts in my head that say like I'm completely incapable of emotional intimacy or physical intimacy. And for years I was unable to put in a tampon or like get a pap smear or anything. And then recently I had to go get a pap smear, and we found out I had something called vaginismus, which essentially means when they're like Gorilla Grip Coochie, it's like that, except it feels like knives trying to be inserted inside me. It's quirky and cute. And like I'm going to see a pelvic floor physical therapist, which like works on that, as well as doing talk therapy and stuff. I guess I'm just frustrated right now because like I'm 22 and I feel like this is a problem that I don't see often, and it just feels like, especially with this new diagnosis, that like, okay, not only in my head do I feel like I will never be able to find love or fall in love, and that's just not in the cards for me, but now my body is saying it too. So it's like, if I were to find someone who like could love me like that, I have this not only emotional baggage, but physical baggage of like, I also can't have sex with you at the current moment. Yeah, I guess I don't even know what I'm looking for, what question I'm asking. I'd love your thoughts or feedback or whatever. So thanks, y'all. Stay safe. I love you guys. Thanks for always providing something to listen to that makes me feel good. Bye.
I like your attitude.
Oh my God. Yeah, you've got a great attitude. I look like I'm like not listening. I am. But I wanted to pull up this girl.
Is it in the Facebook group?
No, but that is also a reference to, we had someone post in the Facebook group about how do you pronounce this?
I don't know.
Yeah, not totally sure, but exactly what you have described as having. Someone posted in our Facebook group about like having it or being suspected and kind of reading up and thinking that she might have it. We've had a lot of people in our Facebook group who have it.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of, you're not the only person that has called in with this issue either. So it's more common than you think. I just don't think a lot of people talk about it.
No, but it's something that like in learning about like endometriosis, which I didn't learn about until like I had heard about it. Like I remember my OBGYN or someone saying something that like I always knew that there was like a history of really bad cramps in my family, and I never knew that like what endometriosis was until I like became an adult and kind of like did my own fucking research. And that's when I've also learned about this too. But she's a writer. And her name is Laura Parker, and I know her originally from BuzzFeed, and she's actually been like super, super, super fucking helpful in like the articles that she's written for BuzzFeed about endometriosis. I'm pretty sure she also has she's got a lot of like pain. She can't necessarily have penetrative sex and has a lot of pain with all of this. And she actually has a book coming out called Vagina Problems. And it's literally about endometriosis diagnosis, sex work, and it's also about so she has a diagnosis of pelvic floor dysfunction, vulvodynia, the one that you mentioned, and vestibulosis, which I'm not totally sure what they are, but they're all vagina problems in her words. And her book, it comes out October 6th, 2020, but she's written a ton of stuff on BuzzFeed, and she's like really like vocal and active about all of this kind of stuff on her Instagram and her Twitter, which has been like, people have sent me her stuff, which I think is like really, really, really helpful. But I think that like I don't like deal with this, so I can only like go from like my assumption of it. But like, I think like when we have physical pain and chronic pain and anything like that, and then there is like an emotional component of it, that whether you're not in pain in that current moment, like that mental stuff stays with you the whole time. And I think it's great you're doing physical therapy. I think it's great you're talking to your therapist. I would really like urge you to bring these conversations up to your therapist. And then also I would bring these conversations up just to your friends in general, and just have some like other young people to talk to, even if it's not necessarily about like, oh, like I'm dealing with all of this pain and that kind of stuff. But I think that it sounds like that there comes this like, oh, there's this physical pain, and then there's this psychological aspect that you're dealing with, but they go hand in hand, and then one stays all the time. And like that feeling of like, oh,
I'm not good enough. I don't deserve love. I'm never going to get it. I'm mentally and physically incapable of these things. I think you're doing all the right steps, and I think you're calling us before you've gone to the physical therapy thing. And I think after, like, you bring up these same things that you just gave us. If you didn't, you've probably already been to your appointment at this point, but bringing them up. And I think that your phone call, if you would have made the phone call after you went, then this would have been a different call.
Yeah.
So you're doing all the steps. So good for you. I think maybe one component that's missing, and it's kind of like what Megan touched on, is the community around it. So I think that having a support group of women would also help with that. I have recently discovered how great Reddit is. I thought Reddit was just like a bunch of dudes that were just having bro problems, and it was going to be like this like awful place, but it's actually very supportive. And like when somebody starts to post something bad, then it gets deleted almost immediately. So maybe checking Reddit. There probably is a subreddit about this topic, or finding a community online of other women around your age. And then going back to like the love part, like you're in your early 20s, you're so young, like you have time. So like, don't feel like that you don't deserve things, or you're never going to get things because you haven't had them yet. You're on your own timetable. So don't judge yourself based on what other people are going through.
And it only has to happen once. And that's the thing that like which maybe you know, or maybe people don't know. I like, despite like having a podcast and being on social media, I'm like super emotionally closed off. Like I am not like a cry to my friends kind of person. I am not a talk about my feelings kind of person. Never have been. And I fully, like, I had those feelings of being like, I fully thought I was incapable of like loving someone or liking someone in like a deeper way. Like I had like, oh yeah, like high school boyfriend, and like I liked them, but then it got like, there was always something stopping me. Like there was always this barrier there. And then by the time that like I got older and like more shit happened in my life, and I was just like more emotionally closed off, and like I was deeming myself emotionally damaged. I was like, I literally hate everyone. Like I have no desire to date anyone. I like, even if people were interested in me, like I did not like them at all. I had no desire to go on dates. Like I was just like emotionally, like completely emotionally shut off and closed off. And I would also look into attachment theories if I were you, because that is avoidant dismissive or something like that. And I didn't even know about attachment theories until Shan had come on. Shan Boudram came on the podcast, and I said something about like me, and then she goes, you should, like, you definitely were this style, and then I think you've moved on to this style of attachment theory. And I completely relate to that sort of feeling, but And I know that it can be, and at least like what I did, it was like so easy to kind of like blame like, oh, this is all the shit that fucking happened in my life. Like, of course I'm not going to be able to have a normal relationship. Like I looked at like everything and like my past and everything as like a cause for why this would be my forever future, as opposed to being like, no, like, sure, like maybe those elements and the fact that like you didn't have like a great like family life and relationship like played into the fact that you didn't like get into these other relationships going on, but like that's not the end. Like that can explain like why my journey has been this way, but like that's not like a fate. Like it's not like you're destined and designed and this is how it's going to end up. And I think like, again, like the therapy and then physical therapy too, and all of that stuff, you're like you said, you're doing every single thing right. And then once you can kind of just go about it in your own way, like do it your own way. And that was something that was hard for me too, to see my friends are serial daters. Most of my friends are serial daters where boyfriend, they would constantly like being very active, going on lots of dates and then seeing if they like them and not. And I am the definition of like, everyone I've dated, sans like a couple guys I dated in college, were all friends. Like I've only ever dated really, really close friends. And then when I moved to a city where I had no friends, like what the fuck, how the fuck was I supposed to like end up dating? And so I didn't kind of conform to what everybody else was doing. And I did it kind of my own way. Like I put some blind trust in the fact that I'm like, if I work on myself and I like focus on myself, then eventually I will get to a point where I want to date someone and I want to do all of that. And I think if you don't want to do that at this like current point, that's okay. And I think like maybe address like maybe you don't know if you want to or you think you want to, but I would just match up your actions and your feelings and kind of like self-assess. Like I'm a self-sabotager. And if you recognize that you've been doing that, then maybe it's like, oh, maybe I don't want to date right now. And maybe I'm like pissed at myself for some reason. This is like a self-loathing thing. And I'm using dating as a vehicle to punish myself. Like maybe I fucking step away from that and focus this more on therapy. But I would also, I would just urge you, you also don't have to, not that you said that you do this, but I think like we can get into a habit of like just using therapy to talk about like trauma. And like if you've spent therapy talking about like really intense, really, really heavy things, those things influence the rest of your life and who you are and how you make decisions. And so then when it can feel really trivial to talk about dating or like being single and not liking it, they're completely and totally related. And a therapist is happy to like discuss those things with you. But I would just urge you to, like you said, find a community, find people that you can kind of talk to through all of this. And even if it's just like your friends and just talking about like your feelings a little bit more, I think the more emotionally vulnerable you can be with the people that you trust and the people that you care about, I think it'll make it a lot easier for you to get used to doing that with people that you start dating. But I fully agree on Reddit. Reddit was how I found out about Nancy's Nook, which is an endometriosis Facebook group run by like these doctors and who like have done all that stuff. So I found out that through Reddit. So I'm sure you could also find Facebook groups through Reddit too, that are like a part of that whole like community, but it's so much more common than people talk about. Nobody talks about vaginas.
We do, but like
we do.
But as a whole, I think we should be talking way more about vaginas.
Well, I think like we should be talking about like vagina health that's not in relation to like heteronormity and like sexiness. Like I think the most things that you ever hear about vaginas are when you're fucking them. Yeah. And then the odor, like, and the smell, like, oh, and like there's these concerns about like, oh, like, well, my vagina smells like what? And it's like, well, it's a vagina. It's what do you think it's supposed to fucking smell like? But there's all of that versus like all of these other like things that nobody else talks about that are like about the actual like function of your fucking vagina. I was telling Monts yesterday, I think I was watching a TikTok or something. There's a gynecologist on TikTok called Dr. Mama Jones. She's fantastic. I love her. She also has a YouTube channel. And she tweeted me, like I like tweeted her and she like tweeted me and responded. And I like fangirled. I was like, woo! Because I was asking about pregnancy brain and ADHD. And I was like, is it really bad? And she goes, oh yeah, I have ADHD and I have kids. It's awful. But it might have been hers that she was talking about, getting your tubes tied. I don't remember the exact like medical term or whatever, but like how I was telling Monts, I was like, you know how you like usually have to get like a husband to sign off on that? Like it's like on average, like you have to have 3 kids. You have to be like, I think 30 years old, and you have to have over 30, and you have to have like your husband approve it. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. So like even lesbian couples, like 2 women who like, let's say like it's two women who have no desire to carry children, either of them at all. Or one of them has no desire to carry children, has like terrible endometriosis, awful pain, all of that kind of stuff. No, she can't, not allowed. And he was like, what? Like, what do you mean? And like that whole thing was just like,
I
so.
did not know that.
Oh, it's so mind blowing.
I think you might have told me this before, but I didn't know before.
And there's people who have like posted about it in like some of the endometriosis groups that I'm on. And like they've had doctors who have said like, no, you'll change your mind. You'll want kids. And it's like, no, I don't want kids. And it's like, well, no, like you don't know, like you might have a husband later down the road. Like you don't want your husband to then like can't have kids because you made this rash decision. And it's like,
it's not rash. Yeah.
It's just insane to me.
Both my sisters if they had to have their husband, because they both have had their tubes tied. I need to ask. I want to ask them if they have.
But they both have kids though.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's all 3 at the same, like it has to be like you have to like hit all 3 markers, but it's incredibly hard to get one if you are a single person with those reproductive organs.
Is it seen as an elective surgery?
Yeah. And it's crazy to me. And it's also crazy to me that like, it's like this whole, like, it's such like a backwards sort of like mindset that sucks to hear that is still so like dominating in like the medical field. That's not just like, let's just say like fucking like alt-right, like rural fucking South. Like it's something that happens everywhere. And it's like, okay, so this is like, not that this is happening at Planned Parenthood, but I'm saying like there, like I'm like we can be in a state where like abortions are like legal and like Planned Parenthood is all around. And there are still doctors, not at Planned Parenthood, but like there are doctors in like liberal neighborhoods who are being like, no, we like you need your husband. That's our protocol. It's
yikes,
fucking insane. But yeah, people only care about vaginas when they're pushing out babies.
Or. Well, that's still the same thing I was going to say, or trying to stop women from having abortions, but it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's the only time that they care about
life,
health,
and life.
The health, yeah,
life.
Only fucking time. It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Okay, should we go on to the next one?
Hey, Megan and Melissa. I had a situation I wanted to ask you about. My boyfriend has had a closed box of condoms in his nightstand since the fall when I went on the pill and we stopped using condoms. And recently I found that they were open and I asked him about it. And he said how he had used one to masturbate so that it was an easier cleanup. And I had never heard of this before. And we talked a bunch about it because in the back of my mind, there's a small voice saying like, oh, he could be lying. He could be sleeping with someone else. He's been very reassuring, and I really don't think he would cheat on me. But there is always that small voice. He also brought up the point, which is quite valid. We've been quarantining together, so we each have our own apartment still, and we walk back and forth from one to another. But we sleep at each other's house about 6 times a week. So there's not a lot of time that he could be cheating on me. But it's just slightly... I do trust him. I really do, but there's a small, tiny voice in my back of my head that's saying, if he is a fuckboy, this would be his excuse, right?
Oh,
nice, short and quick.
Yeah.
I've heard of this.
Okay, I just texted Monts and he said, no, not a thing.
Mm.
I mean, logically, I fully understand like the mental fucking like gymnastics going on in your head because I'm feeling the same way and it's not me. Because I'm like, logically, it does make sense. But like, it also does. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, it really feels like a 50-50 thing to me.
I think it's just like a trust thing. Do you trust him or not? And it sounds like you don't because you're questioning it. But like, do you have a way to verify that this is it? You don't. You just have to trust that that one night that you weren't together, that he was just jerking off into a condom and not somebody else. But
how many? You got to count. You got to count how many it says on the box of condoms and then how many are gone. Because I think the thing that's a little, because the thing that if you've known that it's a closed box since the fall, that's almost a year.
mm-hmm.
And to me, that's just like, that's the part that's like a little odd. Not like, oh, it's like this is like a brand new thing that I guess it could be like a brand new thing that he's like suddenly like
he's like,
trying.
I don't want like a wet spot in the bed tonight, so I'm gonna jerk off into the condom. Which some dudes like put it in a sock. He just did it into a condom. I don't know. I mean, I think it's exactly like you said. Like you're calling, which means that like there is some doubt in your mind, and I would feel the same. I would feel the same way. Like, because if this was something he was doing all the time before, then I would be like, oh, okay, but this is new.
Yeah, and also just like the ease of cleanup. Like, you're at your house and like it's quarantine. You're stuck at home. Like, no one's coming over except you, your girlfriend. Like, why now? Like, why now? Why this sperm? Like, why? Like that. It just seems. It seems like you're saying. It seems like kind of like the fuck boy excuse that it's just sus, and it's just weird. And this is like my other fucking thing too, that like, even like, let's say he's not like lying, but like, sir, you're gonna see this, you're gonna find this out. Like, don't do anything that can be like I deemed as like super suspicious and can like look like something really fucking bad. If you're gonna do something that you're like, oh, this looks really bad, this could look really bad, let my girlfriend know ahead of, like, something along those lines, as opposed to just waiting for you to find it. And then, because that's, to me, that's a cover up.
Or it could just be like he didn't think it was a big deal, so he didn't mention it.
That's true. That's true too. But I think that I don't think that you trust him as much as you think that you do. And that could be because of your relationship, and it could be actively him, or it could be like past relationships. But I would snoop. Like, I would snoop. I would
immediately looked in trash cans.
Yeah.
But like, at this point they're gone, so it's gone. So
yeah. I mean, I would look at, I would like see, I don't know if you guys have like locations on your phones. I would make up some excuse for the fact that like you listen to, I was gonna say a really scary podcast, not this one, but like you listen to something and like freaked you out and like you've been walking, or just like make up something that was like, oh, like let's like have our locations on each other's phones, or when he's in the shower, like look through his text messages and all of that stuff. And I think if you don't want to do that, then then don't do that. And then I think you trust him. But I think if you need to snoop, and when we say snoop,
just
you're snooping because you're going to find something. So
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like, it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
If you want to snoop, it's because you know that there's something there, and then you're going to find the thing that's there. So it can be impossibly hard to blindly trust somebody. Mm-hmm. And he's given this situation is, it's weird, it's suspicious, and I think could go either way, but you just have to decide if you want to know. Mm-hmm. Like, if he cheated on you, do you want to know? Because some people don't want to know. Some people like it.
So you either have to take what he said, and if you want to be with him, and this is the relationship that you want, you either have to take what he said wholeheartedly, or you take it as a grain of salt. Which one do you want? And if you take it as a grain of salt, you got to deal with the consequences that come with that.
Yeah. And I would also just urge you to like, this is going to sound like crazy girl, but I would also just urge you not to logic it away. I would just go with your feeling. And I think if you have a feeling and you want to snoop, don't let him be like, well, I'm here with you 6 days a week, all like giving all of this sort of thing, because if someone wants to cheat, they'll cheat.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a matter of like pure convenience and like to plant those seeds of doubt. Like, if you have a seed of doubt that he has cheated, follow through on that and figure that out to like however you feel content and comfortable. But focus on your feelings and whatever's going to make you what you need, not like letting him or having him like just like, yeah, explain it away. If you find nothing and then like that to me is like, if it were me in the situation, like I need the cold hard facts and evidence that like you are not fucking involved in, and then like we can talk and you can talk to me after and like explain it or like give me a reason or justify and we can have a conversation. But I need unbiased fucking factual information so then I can make my decision on how I feel, and I'm not basing off how I feel, how you feel, and how you're telling me I should feel, like what your idea of the reality is. But yeah, I hope he's not. I think you're right. It could really just be like, oh, I've done this before and this was like or I've like I like heard about it and I was like, oh, why not? Like, let me try. But at the same time, like, could also be the alternative.
Yeah.
Ugh. That sucks though. But let us know what happens. Call us with an update. And if you snoop, just prepare yourself. Do we have another one?
It's all for... It's time for Don't Blame Then.
Woohoo! So what episode is this from?
So the original call was from season 6, episode 6. And the original caller, she was on vacation with her boyfriend's family and talked to her boyfriend's little sister about sex and buying birth control and things like that. And so here's somebody calling with similar situation and experience.
Oh, wow.
Hey, so this is actually a call for like the Don't Blame Them. So I just listened to the episode where the girl gives her boyfriend's younger sister sex advice and then says that she's not having sex even though they are. So what I was going to say is be careful and be aware of what can come of that, because my ex-boyfriend had a sister who was 2 years younger than us. And this is when I was like 20. So this is about 5-6 years ago. But anyways, she thought she was pregnant. She came to me and asked if I could go get her a birth control test, a pregnancy test. And I did. I know she could have gone at 18 and got herself one, but she was nervous, and I went and got her one. And anyways, months later, she got in a fight with her mom about how she didn't feel comfortable with her and told her about her pregnancy scare and how I was there for her during that. She wasn't trying to throw me under the bus, but it created a very, very weird dynamic. And during family events, the parents didn't really like me anymore. So I don't regret what I did, but you know, if you plan on marrying this guy, luckily I didn't marry that dude, but that's going to create an awkward family dynamic, because a 14-year-old is going to talk to her mom, even if they're not close. It could come out in something like that, where she gets mad and is trying to throw it in her face. Like, hey, you weren't there for me during this. This person had to be. But the adult is not going to take it like, oh, I'm so glad that person was there for you. It's going to be more of that person did not have permission to do this to you. That is not your guardian. And why we had this person in our house that didn't come to us and tell us, which again, it was a different circumstance. She came to me and it wasn't for birth control. It was for a pregnancy test. And, you know, I'd do the same thing again. However, just giving a stance of where it can go a little awkward. So that's just my little tidbit on that. But also, yeah, don't lie about having sex. If you're doing it, either don't talk about it or don't lie. You can simply just say, I don't feel comfortable answering that question. Or if you want to make light of it, be like, ew, that's your brother, like, and just like laugh it off. But don't just straight up lie to her face, because like Melissa said, she's 14, but she's not an idiot. But love the podcast. Love both of you. Bye.
Wow, that's a really good point. I didn't think about it in that sense, that like it, like, even if it's not brought up like to her throwing her under the bus, that And I think especially when you're younger, there is a lot of well, this person's so cool, or like this person's parents are so cool, and like that kind of a thing. But when it's like your son's girlfriend, and that's messy. Well, I'm glad she didn't end up with this guy either, because that is awkward as fuck.
Yeah. And she was 18, so it was like she was even like she had the ability to make her own decision and not talk to she didn't have to talk to her mother, and she didn't have to talk to this girl, but like she still did, and she still got thrown on their bus. And the original caller was in her 20s and talking to a 14-year-old, so it makes it a little worse.
Mm-hmm. We had a bunch of comments about it in I think it was the Facebook group, or was it on like the YouTube comments of people who are like, no, this is not gonna end well. Like it's like, as much as like, yeah, we should talk to children like they're adults, there's just a level of recognizing that like their frontal lobes aren't fully developed until they're 25. And so it's like there's some things that like they're not like emotionally mature enough to handle. But then there's also sometimes being like, okay, well, if you're gonna tell a kid this, heads up, they might just like say it to somebody else, and like it's covering your ass with that. I remember like even just like, this is obviously like a very different age difference, but like I remember like the first time like I was babysitting these kids, and they like I like mentioned, they'd asked me about like my boyfriend or whatever, mentioned something about it, and then like her parents were like, yeah, Megan spent all night talking about her boyfriend. I was like, no, I didn't. She was like, ugh. And it's like
they even over exaggerate everything. Like even like with my niece, she's 13, and she like comes to me and talks to me about things, but you know what, I immediately go snitch it to my sister. It's not like I'm just like keeping it and I'm just like the cool aunt. If it's something that I feel like isn't appropriate, I'm going to tell my sister.
Mm-hmm. I remember the specific story that you told me. I died.
Yeah.
It was great. No, and you guys also have such a good, like, you guys like so many girls, and it's just this like dynamic of like, oh, this and I love it. You guys need a reality show. I would watch it.
It would be a great reality show. I think it would 100% would love it. Maybe one day when COVID's free, I'll do a little teaser.
Please do. Please fucking do.
Even just like if our text messages ever get leaked, they could just be like a book of like funny shit.
And you all look, you know how like some families don't really look alike? Like you guys all look alike like so well, and like you all fit and there's like kids involved, and like your parent, like the whole thing is just, I would watch it so hard. And I've seen some of the text messages and just the witty, snappy back and forth. I love it. And also like, you know, my favorite part of like your mom, when your mom picks favorites and then everyone know, I like that too. Like it's just such a.
We had some of that this past week. It's fun.
Well, that's it for our episode, guys. If you want to call in for an upcoming one, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976.
I thought the computer froze for a second, and then I looked down and realized that if you were unfrozen, your brain just wasn't cooperating.
Yep. And if you want to email us, if you're an international listener, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com.
Did you almost forget that one too?
Yeah, dude, I don't know what's wrong with me. Follow us on Instagram, our individual Instagrams, and then our podcast, Don't Blom Meme Pod, if you want to check it. And then, what else?
Nothing.
Do you want to promote anything?
No. I've promoted everything twice at this point. I think we're good.
You're like, fuck them all. If you want to get my book, do it. If you want to buy my presets, do it. If you want to go on Instagram and like wish me a happy belated birthday, do it.
It's going to be a whole week late.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. It's the month of August. It's Leo season. It's my birthday month. And leave us a review on the podcast app. We would highly appreciate it.
It would be highly likely that we'll check it out and appreciate it if it's a good comment.
And if it's a bad comment, we will send it to each other and talk shit and speculate on who it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I think is not saying we do that, but that's the thing I think is so funny about like we're both like sleuthy as fuck. Like, and we so are. And so then when like we get hate comments as opposed to like people who are like, oh wow, that really hurt my feelings. Like ours are like, let's figure out who this fucking is. Because we have such an active community of people who are like a part of it. And like hate comments that are like, oh, they talk about Zodiac so much, or like blah blah blah. Like I don't care about that. But like the ones that I'm like, who are you?
Yep.
Who is this?
Also, did you even listen to the episode? Because I think you just got triggered by one call or something else, and then you got mad.
It's true. Okay.
All right.
We'll see you guys next time.
Goodbye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me, executive produced by Melissa D. Monts, edited by Katrina Henning, and music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
Listening to a podcast should be time well spent, and I promise it will be if you'll give this podcast a try. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in every episode, I talk with leading experts on topics I know you will find fascinating. From why people can't keep secrets, what your favorite music says about you, why your pet acts in strange ways, and so much more. Something You Should Know is designed to give you information you can use in your life and give you great intel that you can share with others. I'm told it's a binge-worthy podcast, and with over 1,000 episodes, there's a lot to binge on. Something You Should Know has been ranked in the top of the Apple Podcast charts consistently for a long time. I know you're going to like this. I just need to get you to try it. Something You Should Know. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go Network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.